Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Geeks with Wives podcast, episode 144. I'm your host, Jeff Gordon. I'm joined tonight with an illustrious crew of gentlemen. We are joined by Kenny Newville.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Kenny. We've missed you.
I've missed you.
We're also joined by Andrew Barton.
Howdy, Jeff. How's it going today?
I'm fantastic, man. How about you?
Going well.
What's new in your world?
Well, been watching too much soccer, and getting ready for the 4th. So.
Of course. And we have a guest tonight, a very special guest. We have John Warner from Over the Moon Games. How's it going?
Hey, man. Very well. How you doing?
I'm great, man. Man, we're so excited to have you on the podcast. Just real quick, just kind of tell everybody, who you are and, tell them about Over the Moon.
Sounds good. So I'm an indie developer based out of Vancouver, and when I say indie, it's basically me hanging out in my apartment. You can see in the background with a few friends helping me with stuff like writing, and another dude helping me with audio, who's actually based in Montreal. And some stuff like that, but yeah, it's pretty casual. I get some. And then of course, how could I forget my lovely partner Danielle, who helps me with social media and all that kind of stuff. And actually, I think reached out to you guys to begin with.
Awesome. Well, we're glad to have you, and we're going to be talking about a game that you made later. But first, we're going to talk about the games that we are playing about, or perhaps even the games that we are not playing. Is there anybody here that has not been playing any video games?
Anybody who has not?
Yeah.
Boy, that's a trap. You must have something to fill my content section with, because, gee, I haven't been playing any video games lately.
That's cruel.
So what has caused that, Kenny?
Life. Jeff, life. So, as Andrew can attest, since we are in the same field, which will remain nameless right now, we get pretty busy during the spring. This is supposed to be our slower time. It hasn't really died off yet. And so, you know what? This last weekend, Friday rolled around. I had a meeting at 6 o'clock on Friday night, got done at 7, came home, shut off my cell phone, shut off my email. And you know what? I just enjoyed the weekend. I hung out with my 9-month-old daughter and my wife. And we took walks, and we hung out and did stuff around the house, and we played, and it was a good time. So that's why I haven't played video games. And you know what? I don't feel that bad about it, I have to admit. A lot less bad than I thought I'd feel.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that you are embracing your role as husband and father. It's good to hear.
After so long of not embracing that role. Is that what you mean, Jeff?
Oh, yeah, finally. Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that you approve.
Yeah. So my question would be, if you were playing video games, if you had the time, if we added maybe 3 hours to your day, what game would you be playing right now?
Well, if we're going to go into the fairy tale world of me having time to play video games right now, I'm going to take a step further into the fairy tale world of me being able to afford video games right now. So I guess I'll talk about a new release. I'm very interested, actually, in a game that just came out today, which would be a Sniper Elite 3, which, it had a decent release in Sniper Elite V2, and I played that, and it was interesting, but I'm very interested in the PlayStation 4 version of Sniper Elite 3. It looks good. Everything from the original games is supposed to be enhanced. Geeks with Wives did tweet out a question earlier today asking people what they picked up, and wow, I'm going to butcher this Twitter handle, but at xravensxlamentx, he said that he picked that up, and he said it looks great so far. It's great so far. It looks fantastic on the PS4. Stealth and distraction is paramount. X-ray cam is killer and better than Sniper Elite V2. I'm very interested in this game. I'm a history graduate. That is my degree, and primarily that came about when listening to my my grandfather discussed World War II and all that, and so I have a very keen interest in the two world wars and studying them, and I think that I like video games playing with those. I'm not tired of necessarily killing Nazis. Thank you, Wolfenstein: The New Order, for allowing me to do so. And so I think that's what I'd be playing if I had the opportunity to right now.
Yeah, I saw a trailer for it just the other day, and they like show slow motion, like a bullet going through a guy's head, and like everything that's like happening, like inside of him. It blew my mind.
It's pretty, literally. It's pretty gruesome. And Sniper Elite V2 had that as well. And I don't know. It's interesting because sometimes it goes a little too far. Sometimes it's comical, but I always find myself not. Apparently, Sniper Elite 3 has the ability to fast forward through the X-ray kill cam, slow-mo kill cam, but almost everybody I've seen has not utilized that feature. And to be honest with you, I never even looked for one in Sniper Elite V2. I never even thought to myself, hey, let me fast forward through this because it gets boring. I just thought it was always part of the entertainment factor. And does it glorify violence? Yes, it does. But as a well brought up adult who is what would you say, embraced my role as a father and a husband, I can differentiate between the glorification of violence on my screen and reality. So.
Well. I'm glad to hear that, Kenny. And maybe you can pass that along to your kids as well.
In time, when they're ready, I will pass that along to my kids.
Awesome. Well, if you want to donate any money to Kenny to help him play games, you can always reach him at Kenny Newville or Ken Newville on Twitter. So. I'm just throwing that out there,
This isn't the first time, by the way, that we've asked for money on this show. So let's, I know that one of you isn't going to get this reference, but how many of you know James Hardwick? None of you know James Hardwick. Even Andrew? Andrew know James Hardwick? Andrew's frozen. So. Andrew might know James. James actually came on to Geeks and Wives family about the same time I did, but due to some family obligations, he had to step away a little bit sooner than I haven't stepped away. So, anyways, James got his Vita stolen one time. And so we created a hashtag I created using my Twitter handle, and at the time we used it with Geeks and Wives. It was pennies for James PlayStation Vita. It was a really long Twitter handle. And we actually got several people that were interested in finding a way through PayPal or something to get him money. We never took money, and he did get his Vita, so happy story in the end. But this is not the first time that we've asked for donations.
So you didn't end up raising any money from that?
No, not really, because we were joking about it. It was one of those jokes that just became so ingrained in our daily communication that people thought it was real. They were asking where they could donate. So
you never know. The internet is a cruel and also giving place.
It is a very giving place, and then sometimes it's cruel after it gives, anyways. But like I said, no worries. James does have a Vita now, and to be honest with you, I probably could go get Sniper Elite 3, but I just don't have the time. So, not a very good investment on your dollar right there to buy a game for a guy that doesn't have time to play it.
Well, I'm sure that when you do, we'll hear all about it, and so I definitely look forward to that. Now, John. Clearly, you make games. Do you have time to play games? How does that work?
No, I got to start making time to play games. We've had this crazy schedule for the last little while when we were finally on launching. So no, I haven't played a damn thing. But I don't know. We find time here and there. Like I finally got around to playing the first episode of Kentucky Route Zero, which is fantastic. Have you guys played that one at all?
I have not, but tell us about it.
Please do.
It's really abstract, kind of like esoteric. It's like an adventure game, kind of done in this really like minimalistic, flat shaded style. Like everything's kind of made of these flat shaded polygons, but it's incredibly beautiful and it's really surreal. Actually, I haven't taken the time to really go back and think much about it, but it's kind of one of those stories you kind of have to piece apart and interpret and stuff like that. So I guess it's sort of like the genre of like a moving art piece. You know what I mean? It's really nice though. But other than that, I went out and got a few games for the summer sale I haven't picked up yet. One I started playing the other day was called I think it's called Nihog. Have you guys seen that one? It's like this fencing simulator.
I have
It sounds incredible.
seen it. That's all, though.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's unique. It plays really well. It's a lot of fun.
So, have you become a master fencer yet? That's my question.
No. I've become I've only been able to put like 10 minutes into it, shamefully. But for 10 minutes, I'm pretty damn good.
So you see the potential. You see the potential for greatness.
Oh yeah. Maybe one day if I keep at it and dedicate some serious time.
Yeah. Sometimes that's good enough. Like for instance, I took guitar lessons for like a couple of weeks, and I progressed really well in those couple of weeks, but I stopped. But I know that if I had kept doing it, I would have been a great guitarist.
Yeah, sure.
And that's good enough for me.
Hey, so you must be somewhat tempted to pick up Rocksmith, I guess, eh?
Oh my gosh. It's intimidating. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago on the podcast. Like, I like to pretend that I am a rock star by playing a game like Guitar Hero all those years back. But like Rocksmith, it's a game that, like, it really is intimidating. Like, you have to play the chords and you have to really learn. So if I have the time to play a game like that, I definitely would. So
yeah, it seems like an undertaking for sure.
Yeah, but
Rocksmith kind of strikes me as one of those get skinny quick videos. Like they always show like the 30-day Rocksmith challenge. These people played guitar for 30 minutes a day, and now they're Jimi Hendrix. So, I don't think so. 15 days after T25, and I just hurt really bad, but I haven't lost any weight. So
I'm pretty sure that all of these things are perfectly legitimate, Kenny. You can be a millionaire rock star caliber guitarist just by playing Rocksmith 30 minutes a day for like 6 weeks.
Oh man, well in that case, I'm gonna go buy it.
Yeah,
right now. You should go into marketing.
I'm living the dream over here too. Being an indie is all about making a game, and the games industry is booming, right? So if you make a game, you get millions, and clearly that's what's happened to me so far. So.
Yeah, you wouldn't know it because it's out of frame, but right now John is just sitting on a pile of cash.
Exactly. Which is growing slowly as I...
So I have to ask, Andrew, what games are you playing right now? Because you were playing something before we started the show. I'm very interested to hear about it.
Yeah, so
I've
actually been trading off a couple of different games over the weekend. I've been playing Tales of the Abyss and Shin Megami Tensei 4, both on my 3DS. I guess I'm just going through a JRPG phase and trying to close out some of these games I started. But just before we started, I was playing Shin Megami Tensei 4, and I'm like right at the very end. It's a lot of fun. I believe I've talked about it on the show before. It's a little bit like a more mature Pokemon. You collect monsters and you battle with monsters on your team. It's turn-based RPG combat. The monsters level up. There is some evolving-like thing, just like in Pokemon, but also you can combine your monsters. You meld two together to get a new and more ferocious one. And so you're doing a lot of that and just running around and collecting these monsters. The nice thing is that your character can actually fight as well, so it's not just like Ash Ketchum there who's just throwing Pokeballs and making his pets do his dirty work. In this case, you actually have a sword and a gun, and so you can actually fight alongside your team. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun. Like I said, right at the very end, it's a lot more adult, I guess, than Pokemon. I should have said that. There is some naughty language in there and blood and death and dismemberment kind of stuff. So if if you have a kiddo who just finished Pokemon and is looking for a new game, this may not be the one for him. But if you liked Pokemon 10 years ago and you're looking for something that's maybe a little bit more rough than Pokemon Red and Blue, then this may be the way to go for you.
Yeah. So, what's the story like? Is it good or?
Yeah. So it takes place in a mystical land called the Eastern Kingdom of Mikado, and it's being invaded by these demons. And so you're kind of dealing with some like political power moves. There's forces behind the scenes that are trying to make you, you're just a lowly samurai, and they're trying to manipulate you, and you're trying to investigate this while at the same time obeying your superiors, and then you end up stumbling into kind of, and this is a little bit of spoiler territory. You stumble into a post-apocalyptic version of Tokyo. So I'm actually kind of having fun running around in Tokyo with my character and seeing the stuff that my wife and I saw on our honeymoon when we went to Tokyo, and going, hey, I recognize that place. Now it's overrun by demons. And so it's kind of fun to just see what they've done with that, and it's actually kind of making me a little nostalgic. I want to go back to Tokyo. So, if I just mysteriously disappear for a couple weeks, maybe that's where I went.
What did you say the name was again?
Shin Megami Tensei number 4.
Oh, Persona.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's pretty much that game, and I'm enjoying Tales of the Abyss as well. That one, it started off kind of slow. I didn't really like the protagonist, but I think the protagonist is a little bit more likable now. It's a remake of a PS2 game. Again, very JRPG-esque. It's action RPG rather than turn-based. A lot of fun. It has some of those anime stylings, so if you're into that, then that could be fun for you. I haven't played any other Tales games, so I can't really compare it, but it seems to be popular amongst the Tales fan base.
Well, I always say, I enjoy when people are adventurous, and Andrew is an adventurous gamer for sure. You always play all those games. I'm like, I don't know if I could do that, but you do it. I enjoy that.
All the weird games, yeah.
All the weird games. But that's good. That's good. It encourages me because I know that there is a fan base for stuff like that. Like that stuff can live and thrive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because guys like me don't play it. Yeah.
It's good to know that there are outlets for some of the more unusual things. I feel like in many ways I'm kind of a minority just because I don't like first-person shooters, and everybody loves first-person shooters. And so I end up doing these 80-hour JRPG games, and instead of playing Call of Duty or Titanfall or Destiny. Sorry, Jeremy. And so everybody's got to have their niche, right?
I'm getting sick of FPS too, man.
Well, at least I'm not alone.
Yeah, well, I used to be a big Counter-Strike player in the day, but I don't know, there's something about the game mechanic that has run dry with me or something like that. I haven't played Titan.
I haven't really been into a first-person shooter since GoldenEye and the original Perfect Dark. So it's been a long time.
Now, hold on there, because since you use first-person shooter, in my opinion, far too broadly with that statement. Now, maybe any first-person shooter is what you're referring to, but for example, there's a huge difference between something like Wolfenstein: The New Order versus Battlefield or Counter-Strike, something that's more specific towards multiplayer.
Sure. And honestly, I'm using a broad stroke paintbrush here because it really is a broad stroke. If I'm interested in anything about Wolfenstein, it would be just kind of the atmosphere and that alternate history, which you and I have talked about before, and I'm interested in. But the gameplay mechanics just don't appeal to me at all. I've played a little bit of the original BioShock, and honestly, I haven't finished it, which is quite unusual for me, and I think a lot of it goes back to just that gameplay. And that, I mean, if you want to talk about something that's not really focused around multiplayer, well, that isn't.
There you go.
So.
And you know what, it is fun and appeals to almost everybody is, Jeff, there's a little button up on the top of the screen right now. I think there's an eject button. And all you'd have to do is just jettison Andrew from the podcast, and we won't have to worry about it anymore. But
well, if you wait about 3 or 4 minutes, my network connection just may do that for you.
I'm actually behind your house right now. I'm messing with your cables.
I actually found the same problem with BioShock Infinite. Like, it's an amazing game. It's extremely beautiful, amazingly beautiful. One of the best games I've ever played in terms of that sense. And the story is kind of compelling and interesting and everything. But yeah, the combat sections really kind of laid me flat. It felt like they were trying to make like this arty story game, but they're like, well, we gotta make it appealing to like the frat boy shooter types because then it won't sell. And they may have been right for all I know. Yeah, but it just kind of felt like two different things put together.
See, have you played the prior BioShock games?
I played the first and the second, so I guess I played all three. Yes.
Yeah, and you didn't feel that about the first and the second, but you felt it about the third.
I did feel it about the first and the second as well, but for some reason, I guess the first seemed a little bit more smooth. I guess because the first was kind of already a horror setting anyway. So the bludgeoning and the shotguns in the face kind of like fit a little bit better. But there's something weird about walking around this like beautifully lit pastoral setting and then gouging somebody's head apart with your whatever the hell that thing is, right?
Well, it's really too bad that I'm on this call and not Joe, because actually that was the original reason for me joining Geeks with Wives one night. Was I went on to argue against Joe that BioShock Infinite was a phenomenal game, and Joe thinks it's overrated and doesn't like it. If only Joe were here.
Wow, what a coincidence!
Oh my gosh!
Hey, look at that. See, look at that. Someone starts talking about BioShock Infinite in a poor way, and I'm sitting here to defend it. And it's like
it's a little bit like Candyman or Bloody Mary or something. You say his name too many times, and he just shows up into.
It's like the bat signal. It's like Joe was just, sipping mint juleps on his back porch, looked up to the sky, and saw the sign.
I felt the need to save the world for a minute. Tell those poor people who have a chance to buy this overrated game for $3 or whatever it is now on Steam. I need to protect them from a bad purchase. Go buy a latte instead.
Go buy a latte. The combat's better, right?
Hey, guys, thanks for letting me jump in here. It's kind of at the last minute. I apologize for sabotaging the show, but I do reserve the right to do that as the guy that pays the bills. John.
Hey.
Dude, unbelievable game, by the way.
Oh, really? Oh, great. Thanks, man. I'm glad to hear it. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, the fall is fantastic. So I haven't finished it yet. I know it's not, a massively long game, and I should have by now, but there was a Steam sale recently. So have you guys talked about the game yet?
No, but we can go ahead and we can talk about it.
But what games are you playing, Joe?
Oh, we're gonna do that. We're gonna do that. Okay. I thought. Hey, wait a minute. Who's hosting this show? I thought it was Jeff.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, he already tried to eject Andrew out of the podcast. So
you know how it is with sales, Joe. You know how it is with sales. You see a pitch opportunity and you take it, man. You don't ask questions.
This is dog eat dog world. Jeff, you're looking particularly handsome today, I might add.
Thank you. I got a new hipster haircut.
Yeah, I saw you had a hipster ring going.
Thank you. Hey, if the wife likes it, that's all that matters, right?
That's true. That's true. Okay, what games I'm playing? Well, I'm playing a lot of games right now, Jeff and team. I'm playing games for 5 minutes. I'm playing some games for a couple of hours. I'm playing new games. I'm playing games that are new to me that are actually old. I'm playing old games that are old to me. I'm playing everything. It's weird. It's a really weird time. So I've been playing Banished. That's the #1 game that I'd like to talk about of the games recently I've been playing. Have you guys heard of this game?
I just bought it. I gave it a shot.
What do you think?
I thought it was fun so far. I mean, I'm not a huge city building fan, but I played it for like 20 minutes. It seemed like an awesome game.
Yeah, so tell me how you feel after 2 hours.
Okay.
Because it's very challenging, this game. So this is a city building game where it's kind of hard to understand what the end game is. What's the purpose of this thing? Well, it's to survive. You have a group of settlers and you build farms and agriculture, and then eventually a blacksmith shop and stables, and you start really building it out. And you're not competing against outside invaders. It's not a multiplayer game. It's strictly you against the environment, the world that the AI bad guy computer, almost like the Left 4 Dead AI director kind of guy, has decided to put against you. And there's difficulty settings. You see more or less of those types of issues that come up. But after 2 hours, what I've found is if I incorrectly structured my farms, for example, or my roads, for example, within the first 30 minutes of the game, by 2 hours, I'm screwed. So you can get pretty far a couple of hours in off a bad setup, but you can't finally get to 1,000 settlers or 1,500 settlers, which from what I see from forums is sort of the end goal. You can't get there unless you do it all right from the start. So it's a game that, kind of like in a Dark Souls manner, kind of teaches you how to play the game by trial and error.
That's awesome.
Are you able to create like different save files so you can like go like back to your 30-minute mark?
Yeah, you definitely can.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's good. I'm having to deal with that right now as I play Final Fantasy VII for the first time because I keep messing up and having to go back.
I'd love to know what you think about it. I have this nostalgia distortion in my brain. I look back at the games I played when I was a kid, and I think they're amazing, but they might not be. What do you think?
Well, I like it. I got it on my Vita, and so it's like the perfect game, I think, to just kind of go around and play for 15, 20 minutes, and then they do a really good job of spacing out the save points, I feel like. So you can like play for like 20 minutes, find a save point, and save it, and then come back later. So I like it. It's good. For the handheld, I think.
Yeah, the Vita's an awesome little system, eh?
Yeah, it really is. It's sort of unfair what's happened to it in the press lately. A lot of people are writing articles like Kotaku and Joystick and GameX, all these different sites, saying, "Oh, the Vita's dead," right? But their justification's terrible. They're saying, "Oh, well, on one hand, it's not the device that Sony promised." So apparently, Sony promised that this would be an iPad merged with a Nintendo DS or something, and so it would be gaming as well as your portable, personal electronics device. No, that's not the case at all. It's never what they said it would be. Certainly, there may not be a lot of entertainment applications that go outside the normal ones like a Hulu or a Netflix, but no one's going to use the Vita to take notes in class. No one's going to use it to record a conversation in a business meeting. This is a gaming and entertainment companion device, and it's only, in my opinion, it's at the beginning. It's at the genesis of its lifestyle, or its lifelong quest here to be a good companion to the PlayStation brand. When you talk about the streaming options with the PS4 or with, for example, the PS Vita TV, or I think they call it PlayStation TV now here in the States, this thing has a long life ahead of it. It's going to be very good.
Yeah, I mean,
inflammatory thing. Sorry.
What's that?
Go ahead, John.
I actually just said I think people like to say inflammatory things. But
yeah, it gets readers, right? It gets people to read, which is why we don't do that at Geeks with Wise. We don't want anyone reading our site. Now, we don't want that type of reader, right? That's the kind of person who's going to read it real quick and never come back. We want people who are going to come back over and over and over again. So hey, I got to go in a couple of minutes. I'm actually cleaning out my garage. I got some painters coming in the morning, which is why I look like I've been working out. I've got some big boxes in my garage, a lot of crap in there, but no video games in the garage. They're all in nice, pristine organization inside the house, protected from the cobwebs and the dust. So anyway, a couple more games I've been playing that I want to talk to you guys about. Grim Dawn. Have you guys heard of this?
Not yet.
No.
Okay, Grim Dawn is an Googling. Is that what you said? It's a and thus the secret to Kenny's intellect. Google.
What?
So it's okay. History major. We'll be okay. Grim Dawn is an action RPG. If you guys have ever heard of a game called Titan Quest, came out, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Another action RPG in the same vein of a Diablo type game. This is by the same development team. It runs on it's got to be the same engine or something similar because it's just eerily the same. But it's an action RPG that takes place in a grim, dark world, kind of like Diablo 2. And although it is more of the same, right? Click, 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 loot, click, 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 loot. They've done some interesting things with navigation in the game. For example, holding down A will just, you don't have to click your mouse button, it'll just move your character around. So they add a little bit of almost like the type of controls you would see in a game on a console where you have a controller using an analog stick. So in that regard, it's pretty nice. And the secret to any one of these games is going to be loot frequency and how much that will increase your character's power. And they've done a lot of really cool stuff with the character building. So you pick from one of 4 classes, and at level 10 you unlock the option to add another one of those classes' attributes to your own. So if you're a fan of action RPGs and you're not addicted to Marvel Heroes like I am, then this is a nice one to try out. I got it on the Steam sale when it was on sale, and it's no longer on sale, but of course it will be again soon. It's an early access game, so just bear in mind there's no multiplayer yet, and some of the other features are not yet unlocked. There's a couple of bugs, but if you want to help these guys build out the rest of the game, this is a really good game to get in on. So I highly recommend that. Any questions?
I have a question.
All right.
So how well do you feel like it's holding together as far as, you're saying like it's an early experience of the game. Do you feel like are you experiencing any kind of technical issues with the game, or do you feel like it's running pretty well?
No, I definitely do experience some technical issues. Nothing that's been terrible. So for example, I've gotten crashes where I changed a few settings. Maybe it's the resolution, I turned on anisotropic filtering or something, crashes as soon as I press save. I come back into the game, those settings remain, and you go back to the hub inside the world. I'm not far enough yet to where that bothers me, that I have to start back from the hub, so I'm okay with that. Plus, it's early access, I know what I'm getting into. On the other hand, I do a lot of dual screen stuff, so I'll be watching a conference at work, and I'll be playing the game at the same time, so they're on separate screens. Well, I might need to take a screenshot of something in the conference because I'm not really paying attention, but I can recognize that thing's important. I'm really telling you guys everything here. So I'll minimize the game, and then I'll go in, take my screenshot, come back down, paste into a Word doc, and then go back to the game, and it's fine. It doesn't crash or anything. I have games that are not early access, that are version 1 plus, that crash in those types of situations. So it's kind of a mixed bag, I suppose, but certainly worth the investment if you understand that there's going to be a couple of bugs here and there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always find it interesting. We talked about it when Kenny was on a couple of weeks ago when they released the Battlefield Hardline beta, and Kenny was talking about that there were some technical issues with that. I find it pretty interesting that companies will give players or gamers early access to something, and I always wonder if there's like that risk of, do people not understand what they're getting into? Like, do they think, oh, this is what the game's going to be like when it comes out?
Well, that's a great question for John. I mean, he's a game developer. He's on the podcast. He's got a great beard. We should ask him this question. John, you gave me early access to the fall. Granted, we're not talking months before release, but have you been in a situation, sort of like Jeff was saying, where you gave access to one of your games early, and there are a little bit of bugs, which is normal before general release, and that came back to bite you?
There was actually one situation where that happened. We had a review, now I don't even want to mention, but I guess I should. Artistryandgames.com, I think, they did a review. And in their defense, when we sent them the early build, I think in that particular case we forgot to say, hey, by the way, this is early, so there are going to be some bugs. But he ran into a whole bunch. Most people don't run into bugs, but every once in a while somebody runs into a problem and it breaks the game or whatever, and it's frustrating for anybody. I totally get it. But yeah, he like laid into us as a result and gave us a nasty Steam review and everything. But yeah, I mean, it's frustrating. We'd considered doing early access and just decided to push forward for a launch. And now that we've done it, I'm not sure if we should have. It's hard to say. We had a few bugs on launch. And yeah, I mean, it's a pain in the ass. You buy a game, there's a bug, you kind of expect it to work, right? But it's hard to say. In my experience, from what I've heard about people saying, like, giving early access, if people know, hey, it's early and there are going to be bugs and please be understanding, people will look past them. The truth of the matter is that when you get a bug as a developer, it's horrifying because it's like, oh my god, like I made this piece of software, somebody gave me money for it, and I didn't, like, oh yeah, whatever, I had to restart the game, who gives a shit? Which is nice. Some people, though, like it.
So with The Fall, where did you develop that? Is that a Unity game?
Yeah, it's Unity. Unity is a fantastic platform for any developers out there that are listening that are interested in stuff.
Well, we do get a lot of developers that listen to the show. In fact, we actually have one that's a writer named Tommy Surratt, who recently joined our team. He was on our podcast a year ago as part of a development team that we interviewed for Blue Key Games. And so if you ever need a writer, I'd strongly recommend Tommy. He's fantastic. But with Unity, it's a platform. So people who don't know, Unity is a game development platform that you could download on your PC. I'm not sure if there's a Mac version as well, but there's certainly a Linux version. And you can then, once you build your game in this one language, you could then output it into a variety of different game platforms for publishing. And that's really when you start to pay for it. Pay for what you're getting. I'm sure there's some features you can pay for too in terms of development. I'm not sure, but anyway, look into it if you want to know more. So there's built-in bug tracking, right? So you can see, you can track your bugs and what the effects might be of changing a certain line of code. Maybe walk us through that a little bit.
Well, there's definitely like profiler stuff in Unity. So like once you find bugs, you can definitely help track them down. But I mean, I'm sort of like an intermediate programmer. I started off as like a tech artist, and then I kind of was like, one day, screw it, I'm just going to learn how to code. I think Andrew's going to take off. Yeah, writing bugs in soft kind of it's kind of a tricky topic. There's nothing that can kind of fix the process for you. It's kind of learning slowly is that like getting better as a programmer and understanding when you make something, you don't just like write code, you have to build these that are like clearly defined so that you can test them and they have a definition of what they are and what they are not, and that's very clearly defined so that you can tell when something isn't working and stuff like that. But it's quite a skill, and I know some programmers that are excellent, and they can do it, and they can write code that's relatively free of bugs. I have no idea how NASA does it. If I was a programmer associated with like anything in NASA, everything would blow up in the sky.
And if that were a game, it would be really fun. But unfortunately, guys, I apologize. I have to get back to cleaning out the garage. So thank you very much for letting me interrupt the show, Jeff. Let me finally announce to everybody that I've given the reins to Jeff.
What
You're
have you?
amazing. You're fantastic. You do a great job. Really love that you're hosting the show. Thank you so much for doing it. John, I apologize I couldn't be on any longer, but everyone who's watching, if you haven't played The Fall, these guys are going to talk about it here shortly. It's a game a lot like Limbo versus, say, Metroid. And I have a small preview of the game on the website that you can check out. Certainly go to Steam and download the game. It's not very expensive when compared to other experiences that you might drop your dollars on, but you'll get a lot more bang for your buck here. It's very, very good in terms of mystery and problem solving and platforming. So highly recommend the game. John, thanks for joining the podcast, guys. I'm out.
Take care,
Thanks, Joe.
sir.
Good to meet you.
And like Demon Souls, Joe has invaded the podcast, murdered it, bowed, and left.
Now the real show starts.
Now the real Geeks with Wives begin.
We are going to talk about the fall, but I didn't get to quite talk about the game or the games that I'm not playing, and I got one of these over the weekend.
So for our audio listeners,
Yes.
Jeff is holding up an X-Bone.
Yeah,
Not to be confused with the first Xbox, but an X-Bone, actually.
Yeah, so it was only a matter of time until we showed an X-Bone on the podcast.
You know what this means, Jeff?
What does it
means
mean?
that you're going to have to man up, buy a game, and then review the X-Bone for the website.
I know. I'm looking forward to it. And that's kind of what I was going to lead into, is that I don't have a game for it. And this is, I wonder, have you guys ever had a console, but like when you bought it and then you didn't have a game for a little bit, or have you always had a game like when you get the console?
I've always had.
Well, you know that the nice thing about what happened years and years ago is that when you bought the console, it came with a game. That's not really the case
Sometimes
anymore.
the best game on said console, depending on which console you're discussing.
Very, very frequently. I mean, you would get Super Mario World with Super Nintendo. You would get Super Mario 64 with the N64. I mean,
Halo with the Xbox One, the original.
Yeah, and I mean, you're talking some of the greatest games of all time, not just on that system, but some of the greatest games of all time. So. And now what we get is the ability to purchase a membership that will give us games that we can play should we continue renewing said membership, which, you know, is all fine and dandy too. It's not quite the same though.
Sounds
But
like
yeah, congratulations, Jeff.
It sounds like you've got some beef against the system, Andrew.
It kind of does. It kind of came out of nowhere, I feel like.
Actually, it sounds like Andrew has beef about every modern day system that isn't a bundle, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, that's kind of. I will say that my Wii U came with a game, which a lot of people really enjoy hating on. I had fun with it, but came with more games than
sorry,
PS4.
hold on. I gotta pick up my eyes. I just rolled them onto the floor.
Yeah.
Where are they? Can't find them. I got them.
Goodness. Well, so,
hey, we had to get the obligatory Kenny hates the Wii U on the show, right?
Sure, absolutely. Right. Wouldn't have been the same without it.
Kenny, why do you...
It wouldn't. My name's Kenny, and I hate fun. Isn't that my disclaimer? Isn't that what I'm supposed to be saying?
Yes. My name's Kenny.
I'm sorry, what's that, John? I've interrupted you twice now.
Sorry, no, it's okay. I'm just wondering why you hate
I don't actually hate the Wii U. I actually really want one. It's going to be my next console. And as for hating Nintendo, I love Nintendo. I would buy Nintendo air fresheners. You know, like when you open up a Nintendo game, it smelled the same ever since like the SNES. Like everything that you open up new from Nintendo smells the exact same. It's got a Nintendo smell. If they patented that, I'd wear it as cologne. Like I love Nintendo. They just didn't sell me on the Wii U as early as they probably would have liked. And so I've acquired this reputation among certain social circles that I hate Nintendo and I hate the Wii U. So I just go ahead and say that to egg people.
All right. They did get started really slowly.
Yeah, I mean, it's taken them a while, but we've kind of talked about this. It seems like I'm hearing more people talk about when they're going to get a Wii U as opposed to if they're going to get a Wii U. It seems like ever since Mario Kart 8 came out, the tune has kind of changed in a lot of people's mindsets. And they still have a lot of work to do. I mean, it's not like it's smooth sailing from here on out, but it seems like they've turned the corner a little bit.
Well, for me, it was after E3. I just wanted to see what they were gonna bring to the table. I wasn't really convinced they were gonna show new hardware, or if they were gonna show new hardware, it was gonna be a new console. But I just wanted to make sure. I've been burned before. And so I have no desire to get my hopes up for a console that is not gonna go to an early grave. So I'm glad the message that they brought to E3 was one that resonated with me. I'm glad that they're going to keep pushing. Hopefully, they stick to this. The gamepad. I like the gamepad. I wish they'd do some more cool things like up the resolution, multi-touch. That's a story for another day.
But a story for today. If we're going to talk about stories for today, let's talk about the fall. I'm very curious about this, John. What my question would be, what's the story behind this? Like, where did the idea come from, and what's been the story behind the development of this game?
Well, I wish I could give you a grandiose story and say that we knew what we were going to do from the beginning, but actually the truth of the matter is that the development process has been completely different. I was working on a company, Incorporated, which is here in Vancouver, and unfortunately I had to do some downsizing, so I got laid off, and I had some free time, and I decided to make some character models, and one of them was the main character for the fall. And after I did that, I kind of brought her into Photoshop and comped her into kind of a scene, because I've always wanted to make something that was kind of Limbo-esque. And I was just kind of playing around, and then decided to kind of bring the scene into Unity, and kind of things transformed from there. I didn't know what I was doing or had any plan when it was happening, but I don't know, it just kind of came together that way. So I know that's kind of a boring guess. I think I'm going to like turn off my brain. I think about shit too much, and I need to just stop worrying and dive in and play around. It seems to far, pretty well.
Yeah.
So it's kind of ironic to me in a way, because I've been. We got a wicked delay here.
It's okay.
John,
go for it.
Go ahead and do me a favor. John, do me a favor. Go ahead up to the top of the picture. Sorry for those of you listening live at home.
Yeah.
We've broken the experience. The wall is down. Joe, if you're listening to this when you're editing, edit this out. So go up to the top of the video feed. There should be a little bar, kind of like cell phone towers. Adjust bandwidth usage. Go ahead and move that. Go ahead and move it down below. I just did the same thing. That might help us a little bit here.
Move it down to audio only?
You could do audio only, but you could also do low. It's up to you. But we've been getting a little bit of some gaps there in your speech, so hopefully this will fix the problem.
I've cut back.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'm on a MacBook.
Yeah, I've cut back too. We're all cutting back just a little bit.
We're cutting back because we love you.
I'm honored.
But anyways.
Sorry, Jeff, you were going to ask.
Yeah, so I was just going to ask, tell us what the game is about, and what's the experience like for gamers when they play it.
Right. So the game is, I've been kind of describing it as a mix between Metroid and Monkey Island. I kind of was really inspired by that sense of exploration that you have in games like Super Metroid, where you're kind of exploring this alien world and going from here to there. And obviously the art style is kind of very, very much Limbo inspired. That's kind of obvious when you look at it. But the problem that I always had with games like Super Metroid is that I love the world and I love the sense of exploration, but I always wanted a little more detail. I wanted to know what that broken down piece of machinery was and all the rest of it. So in the fall, I added these little points of interest around the world that you can kind of hover over with your flashlight and read more about, where you are and what everything is and what it's about and what the backstory is and stuff like that. And kind of things started going from there, and I ended up blending in some adventure game mechanics, so you can pick up items and use them. And actually, the game plays more like an adventure game, with a few sort of combat sections merged together. Yeah, it's. I guess I haven't seen a blend like it quite before, but it's basically a mix of shooters and adventure games, which seems kind of weird, but so far so good anyway.
Yeah, I've watched some footage of the game. And over this past week, and I mean, I have to say it's a really beautiful looking game, and you're very right. I mean, there is definitely this world around your character, and I definitely when I look at it, I'm like, I want to know, what the story is behind, certain things that are going on, and certain contraptions that you come across or certain enemies that you come across. So I definitely echo what you said, and that I think that you've succeeded in that. It definitely has that feel and that atmosphere to it. Are you the only person that developed this game? Is there a team that you had with you?
I have a small team, and what happened is I kind of was a shut-in, and I developed most of it myself over the course of, I guess, about a year up until the Kickstarter campaign. I kind of had the world and the story and the premise more or less laid out. But there's certain issues, of course. I'm not an audio guy, so I need somebody to help me with the audio. And the writing was, I can't write. I mean, the story was there. I kind of knew what I wanted to do, but there was parts that weren't working, and the characterization was kind of falling flat. I'm not a good dialogue writer, so I brought in a guy named Caleb, who absolutely kicked ass, and we've gotten a lot of compliments on the writing and the voice acting and stuff. And that's because he came in and basically saved the project in that sense, and fixed all the writing and helped me find fantastic voice actors and all the rest of it. So. Super lucky. My team is amazing. I love them, and we're really excited to get started with the second one.
No, that's awesome. So I think this is very interesting because as a developer, do you feel like you would rather start with the idea of the gameplay mechanics first, or do you prefer to start with a story and why it is that all of these things are happening? What do you prefer?
That's a good question. In my opinion, it needs to start with gameplay. But I don't want to get into a huge trip about this, but I think that story is about meaning making. It's about how people kind of share like cause and effect and meaning and stuff like that. There's a sequence of events, and we look at the sequence of events and we say, oh, hey, it adds up to something. There's some continuity. But the problem with translating into a game is that 90% of the stuff that players do is action. It has nothing to do with the net. So I think that what needs to happen if you want to make a compelling story is you have to start with gameplay, and the stuff that the player is doing and the type of challenges that you put them in. I think that we need to start building like a narrative around there. For example, I have this personality where I'm kind of I'm very much I'm sort of like one of these like rip the system, fight the man kind of guys. A little bit compulsively sometimes, and when I found that when I started making puzzles for the fall, they were all kind of along this theme of like breaking expectations or breaking rules. I told the player that they were expected to do something. Turns out they weren't. The system that I created didn't really work, and they had to like break the rules or find a loophole or circumvent or something. And actually, the inspiration for the story came out of that. Which is really weird because I spent all these years thinking like, oh, how can I merge story and gameplay? And then the one time I just turned my brain off and stopped thinking about story entirely, it actually seemed to work. So that was amazing. But yeah, so there you go. So a big yes. I think you should start with gameplay.
Yeah. John, we'll need to wait until we get around to the final thoughts, but I have more that I want to follow up with you on that. So thank you very much for sharing.
Well, I don't know what your format is, but we don't have to talk about the fall all the time. I'm just I'm very curious.
Yeah, no. We'll get there. I've got it saved up. So.
Well, I'm excited. I want to hear what he's going to talk about. My gosh, what could it possibly be?
Teasers.
Stay tuned.
So, I just wanted to ask: Did you pursue Kickstarter for this, or what was the experience as far as getting the game out there for gamers?
Yeah, I was on Kickstarter, and I found that Kickstarter was like fantastic. It's amazing. Actually, I was surprised. I didn't think about it until I did it, but I really think that the primary value of Kickstarter, aside from the money, but even more than the money probably, is to test the market. Is to put the game out there and say, hey, does anybody actually give a shit? I wasn't sure that anybody cared about the game. I thought it was cool, but ultimately you don't know. Maybe people are going to hate it. But I figured, okay, well, if I could make a certain amount of money on Kickstarter, enough to finish this game, then I could certainly generate enough money to make episode 2 and make episode 3 and all the rest of it. And our sales haven't been phenomenal, but it looks like that we've done enough that we can make episode 2. So we're in the black basically. But man, it would be a nightmare to make a game and and then release it and then be like, oh look, nobody cares. Oh wonderful, I guess I'll get a job at wherever.
Yeah, and I mean, on top of that, what I've heard a lot of artists talk about, people that, not just game developers, but people that want to make films. If a corporation comes along, or some type of entity comes along and helps finance your game, it seems like they begin to kind of have a say in what the game is going to be like, and based upon what they feel like is going to make money. And you do have to think about business decisions like that. But I think Kickstarter provides developers like you, and like I said, other artists that are developing whatever it is that they're developing. It gives them the freedom to kind of say, this is the choice that I am deciding to stick with, and and like you said, people can speak with their dollars and say, all right, I think this is something that I want to invest in.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're totally right. And there's another thing too, where you need, if you're going to deal with those types of people. I don't work great in a lot of that. From what I've known and what I've found out about talking with the people that are interested in that kind of stuff, you almost need a biz dev guy. You need somebody that's like very aware of markets and where it's going, so that you can kind of talk the talk and give the person the impression that you're not a complete idiot. I cannot talk that language. I mean, whenever I'm in a podcast like this, I almost kind of like, listen and follow along and hear what you guys are riffing on, and usually, you're much, much, much more up to date on the goings on in the industry.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm really excited about this game, and if I want to buy it, if I want to play it, where do I go to do that?
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, you can get it on Steam. Just go to Steam, type in The Fall. Actually, I believe that we're currently a featured PC game. I don't know how we got there, but I got to thank somebody. Just not the main capsule, the big images. Just underneath that, you have to click next a few times, and that's the game anyway.
Well, awesome. Like I said, we're really pumped about it, and I heard about it first from Joe, and like I said, he was really, really excited about it, and so I just basically spent a good portion of my week just kind of researching and finding out what this great game called The Fall was, and so I'm really, really excited about it.
Oh, I'm honored. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
And you guys are coming to a couple of other different systems as well, aren't you?
Yeah, we're on the way to the Wii U, as a matter of fact. That's kind of partially why I was interested in hearing
Kenny's complaints.
What? Complaints? No.
So,
go ahead.
So for those of us who are pretty lousy at the whole Steam thing, when can we expect it on Wii U?
Well, it's hard to say because I've actually submitted it to Nintendo. It's currently in lot check, apparently. So unless they're currently staring at it with seething hatred on their face, and I'll get an email back in a day or two, it should be good. I mean, it's my first submission to Nintendo, so I'm sure I missed something. So they'll probably send it back, and I'll have to fix it and send it to them again or whatever else. But I'm hoping to have a release date soon. Maybe within another month or maybe 2, something like that. Not sure.
Well, in that case, I will be on the lookout for it on my Wii U.
Awesome.
Cheers. Way to go, Andrew. Awesome. Well, we are nearing the end of the show, and what we like to do at the end of every episode is we like to have our final thought. And John, since you are our guest tonight, I wanted to go ahead and give you the first shot at your final thought. Anything that you want to talk about, the floor is yours.
I don't know. Oh, I tell you one thing. I'm finding out recently, and this is completely off topic, that crunch time is like hugely stupid. And we just did crunch for like 3 months, something like that. And the first month it might have been productive, but the final 2 were just an absolute nightmare. And it's funny. This is it's Geeks with Wives. It was. I'm finding out in the last few days that it was completely destructive to to not just the work, but like my relationship and a whole bunch of other stuff. I've become like this megalomaniacal, selfish, video game world all the time person, which is totally insane. So I'm thinking about writing an article or something like that, talking about crunch time, which is kind of an old argument. It's sort of dead, maybe. Are people bored with that? I don't know. What do you guys think?
You know what, John? We'd love to have you on Gigs with Wives, write something about that. So if you feel like you want to write an article, we will find a way for you to let your voice be heard.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I was thinking about like Gamasutra, but hell, I'll take the invitation. That's cool, guys. Awesome.
Well, yeah, I mean, the best of luck with that, John. The best of luck. It sounds like you got quite a conundrum on your hands.
Oh, I'm over dramatizing it. Actually, we have a great relationship, so life is wonderful, actually. But it's one of those things where I think we put on the binders just before we went over the cliff, and we're like, "Holy shit, that was crazy! That was like, why did we do that?"
Well, awesome. And once again, we're so thankful that you came on the podcast and spent some time with us. We're very thankful for that. And so yeah, and like I said, The Fall, an incredible game. And I think everybody, if you're listening to the podcast live tonight, or if it's Friday and you've downloaded it, the next thing you need to do is get on Steam and get The Fall. Or if you got a Wii U, you can wait for that, and that'll be right around the corner.
Thank you so much. And hey, it's an honor for me to be here, man. I'm really thankful too. I can always use the publicity, so thank you. And I'm having a lot of fun.
Yeah. And so, Andrew, you put a little teaser out there earlier.
I did.
Yeah. So, what is your final thought, my friend?
So, I just wanted to be a little bit self-serving here and actually plug my newest article on Geeks with Wives, which is actually a discussion on narrative and the author intent in terms of story, what the author is trying to say, and then the in the book circles, the reader's interpretation, but in video games, the player's interpretation of what's going on. And so I had a little bit of a back and forth in this article about how the different schools of thought for authorial intent and player interaction and player interpretation, what they kind of mean and how they determine what shape the game narrative overall takes. And so I just thought it was really interesting that John jumps in and starts talking about his version of narrative and how he feels that it's really driven by gameplay and where to find meaning in the story in that way. Because that's a little bit of what I discussed on there. So, John, you should totally check that out. And also, all of our watchers, listeners, viewers, readers, you guys should read that and, fire back at me. Let me know what you think. I think that it's really important as our hobby grows and matures as a medium and becomes something a little bit more sophisticated, that we start having these kinds of conversations about video games as a literature. When they first started making movies, everyone was saying, these movies, they're just not the same as books. They don't have the same meaning, the same importance. And people come out with movies like Citizen Kane and Gone with the Wind, and it has a huge impact on our society. And before that, people started writing prose novels and saying, they're not going to matter, they're fly-by-night, it's not poetry, so it doesn't carry any real meaning. So I think that it's important for us as we grow and mature, as a medium, to try to think a little bit more critically about some of the stuff that's going on. And this piece was one of my my ways of trying to think a little bit more critically about how video games do some of this literary kind of stuff. So I just wanted to plug myself there. It may be a little bit more a little bit less fluffy than sometimes what we put on Geeks with Wives. But I think that it's kind of interesting, so check it out.
I'd love to read it. And hey, man, if I can respond, thanks for writing that. I'd love to. I do completely agree. We need to have more of a discussion about that stuff. And furthermore, like different types of games are perfectly valid. Like there's this thing. It's almost like a pet peeve of mine where it's games become like this, like the story of me. Like the choices that I've made, I want them to add up to something, which is perfectly fine. It's great. The fall, it's a more like linear, traditional, structured story. So it definitely falls more on the developer intent side for sure. But it's like they're both or both, and if we have a discussion about what the idea is and the difference between it, then we can have informed consumers that can say, well, I like this experience or I like that experience, and they can choose one or the other.
Yeah, you know what? And you're almost summarizing my piece for me when we talk a little bit about some of these games that have some of that more open-ended, player-driven kind of interactions. And we talk about even multiplayer and how that plays a role in it. There's multiplayer campaigns that have virtually no story to it, and the story is really just the story of that particular match. And so it covers a lot of this kind of stuff, and I would love to sit down and chat with you more about this. And I think that it's a great idea for us just as a medium to start talking about some of these things. Who knows? Maybe Jeff will decide that it should be a future topic for topic of the week for a podcast. Not that I'm giving you any nudges, Jeff.
Never. No, I like I said, like you said, I think it's really important that we, be able to discuss, what games are trying to say, what the developers are trying to say to us in these stories, and how they're choosing to do that. Mm-hmm. So, I always wondered, what's the story behind Tetris? What's the narrative?
That's one of those things where you talk about kind of that player's interpretation. The story is really what the player makes of it, rather that there's not a lot of authorial intent there. So, I mean, and you're making a joke, and I'm taking it seriously, but that's one of the great things about this is that you get to write your own story there, and these games that are very weak on the story, your Tetris and your Pac-Man, and those kinds of things. That's really giving you the opportunity to interpret the story in your own way, and they're just giving you a framework there. And then you have the very linear experiences like John was talking about, where you have something, the Uncharted and Last of Us games and that kind of stuff that's very, very focused. You're walking down this pretty corridor is what a lot of people complain about. But at the same time, that allows the author there to tell a very close, tight-knit story. So that way you can feel exactly what they want you to feel and hear exactly what they want you to hear.
Hey, funny anecdote, actually. There's a guy who had this stuff all figured out long before. Apparently the guy that made Monopoly, I don't know if you've heard this, but apparently it's a satire game, and it's supposed to poke fun at communism, capitalism. The idea that basically once somebody starts getting like a lot or a little bit more money than everybody else, they can start getting a lot more money, and they start dominating and wiping the board with everyone else, which is exactly what happens in
I hadn't heard that. That's a great example.
Yeah, come on down to Marvin Gardens. So now I am very curious because somebody has been a little quiet on the podcast for a little bit, which is very unorthodox. So Kenny, what's going on? What's your final thought?
Well, yes. I haven't been sleeping or anything. And I think my little inserts of dialogue have proven that throughout the last couple of minutes. Final thoughts. All right. Well, I tell you what. I'm tired. I am tired. Between a 9-month-old keeping me awake at night, my honey-do list and my nondescript hours per week I work at my job, I'm a zombie. And so I am thrilled, absolutely beyond words, that I will be on vacation starting July 3rd, this Thursday, all the way until July 14th.
Wow.
And you know where I'm going? Nowhere. I am going nowhere. I'm going no farther than 3 hours from my house. And Tuesday and Wednesday, my wife will actually be working, and Catherine will be in daycare, and I will have the whole house to myself. And I'm probably going to catch up on some much needed video game time. So I don't even know what to play. It's going to be one of those things where it's like the levee's going to break, and it's like guessing which water molecule is going to make it to the front of the stream quickest. I don't even know what to play. I'll probably spend both days popping discs in and out of my tray. I hate that feeling, but that's what I'll probably do. So I'm thrilled about that. And next week, if I'm blessed enough to be able to be on the show, I'll probably be back to my normal loud talkative self after some rest.
Yeah. Well, much deserved, Kenny. Much deserved. You're a hard-working man.
It's not the rest I deserve, but it's the rest I need.
Yes. Well, I have to agree with you. I myself am tired, but not the exhausted kind of tired. I am tired of something in particular. And for my final thought tonight, we talked about earlier that I got the Xbox One, and I don't have a game yet, so I'm doing some research on some games that have come out. And
wait, you're tired of your Xbox One already?
I'm not tired of it. I just can't find I'm looking for a game to get for it.
Okay. Sorry.
Two different things, Kenny. Come on. So anyway, I'm looking for a game to play, and a game that I was very intrigued by is Rise: Son of Rome, and I started kind of looking. I try not to look too much at scores of games. I just like to look at what people are saying about the games, and I came across a comment, and it probably just in a forum. Which, that's always a dangerous place to go to, is forums, because there's usually just negativity on there. But I saw just an overwhelming amount of criticism on the game. But my problem is with how the criticism was delivered. And it's made by the developer named Crytek. And of course, Crytek has kind of had some bad publicity in the last week, in which their UK studio has had some difficulty paying some of its employees, and that kind of leaked out. And so so it kind of caught my attention a little bit more. And basically, what the comment is that somebody was disappointed with Rise: Son of Rome, and they're like, I can't believe that Crytek gave us this game. I hope that they basically go under because of this terrible game experience that they've given me. And I just think it's funny because it's not not funny in and of itself, but it's just crazy that people say that kind of stuff, because I think that there is a huge disconnect between gamers and their understanding of just how hard and how expensive it is to make a game, and plus the fact that when a company suffers, people lose their jobs. You kind of talked about that, John. People get laid off when a game doesn't do as well. And I think that before we get really entitled and say, oh my gosh, this one development studio, for example, like Bungie, they're giving all of this exclusive content to the PlayStation 4. The reality is that maybe Sony helped Bungie with their advertising budget, and maybe by doing that, maybe that saves maybe 10 jobs at Bungie. And that's a hypothetical, but I think I've been kind of frustrated with the disconnect that gamers have and their understanding of just how this industry works, and the people that make these games. So that's kind of my final thought for this week. A little frustrated.
I feel
you guys have anything to add to that? You share it.
I almost want to plead the fifth a little bit. Whenever you release a game as a developer, no matter what it is or how much money you sell it for, there's people that think that it's too expensive and there's not enough. Yeah, people a lot of people don't have a lot of insight into the process, but you use the word entitled, and that's it right there. You hit the nail on the head.
The word entitled, I think, is a perfect word to describe our current culture. So I think that it goes beyond the video game realm, and I will not go beyond the video game realm much further than that. But I think that's a cultural problem. That's a cultural hurdle we're gonna have to get over. I think it's definitely going to be a different one, especially in the video game industry, where it's a luxury item. Video games are luxury items. They're not necessary for life unless you're making them and you're making a living. Then they're necessary for life. But for me, look at me. I haven't played a video game in 5 days. I'm not dead yet. Knock on wood. But it's like the ending of Mass Effect 3. Did I like it? No. But you know what? That's their creative vision. That's what they want to do. Then that's great. And you know what? If I decide that ending ruined the entire trilogy for me, then I won't buy their next game, and they'll hear about it. I mean, it's really that simple, guys. You heard it here. It's economics. All right.
Absolutely.
Google it. If you don't like if you're playing a game of Monopoly and you don't like Andrew because he owns Broadway and Park Place, stop going there. Just stop going to Park Place.
Just pass go and collect your 200.
Just go to jail, damn it.
Awesome. Well, once again, I want to thank everybody for coming on the podcast tonight. And I just want to go around real quick and let everybody give their Twitter handles so that our listeners or viewers can find you. So, Andrew, if I wanted to find you on Twitter, where would I find you at?
Hit me up at acbarton08, and feel free to talk to me about all of that fun narrative, authorial intent, whatever it was that we were talking about earlier. I'd love to chat with you about it.
Definitely will do. John, where can we find you at?
At Over the Moon GMS.
Awesome. And as soon as this podcast is over, I'm going to follow you. I'll follow you to the end.
Oh. I'm so honored. We'll follow you back.
He's obviously only got a single monitor setup, otherwise he already would have done that.
That's true. Yes, a little insight into my life. It's just one laptop in this household, and that's how we make do. And Kenny, where can we find you at if we wanted to? If somebody had this crazy idea to follow you on Twitter.
If you just wanted to listen to the garbage I spew about Nintendo and Microsoft all day, then you can find me at Ken Newville on Twitter. And I also am known for running the Geeks with Wives Twitter account every once in a while, and you can find us at Geeks with Wives on Twitter as well.
Of course. Yeah, and that's a great way, if you're just kind of busy and you're able to, get on the website. It's a great way to, find links so you can get quick and easy access to the articles. And also, we have a newsletter. Is that correct, Kenny? How does somebody get a hold of that?
That is correct. You can get a newsletter one of two ways. You can catch the daily tweet that gets shot out from the Geeks with Wives Twitter account, or you can go on over to geekswithwives.com, mouse over editorials, and click newsletter. You'll be able to sign up for that. It's real quick, virtually painless, and you're going to be guaranteed to get a lot of quality content coming to your inbox once a month. We don't spam it. We don't sell it. It's just for Geeks with Wives. And you can unsubscribe at any time. So go ahead and give us a try and see what you think.
Awesome. And so my Twitter handle would be Gentle Jeffrey. So, yeah, I see that smile, John. I know. It's a funny name. But, you make the name and you stick with it. I'm not running away from it.
Jeff's bark is worse than his bite.
Awesome. So once again, we want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight and for listening to the podcast. If you're able to download it, once again, we are on every Tuesday evening. That would be 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I always get mixed up with these time zones, but yes, that's where you can find us, and you can also download the podcast every Friday. So we definitely appreciate everybody listening to the podcast. Make sure you tweet us your questions. Tweet at Geeks with Wives so that we can include you in the podcast, because we do this for you, and we want to make sure that you get your spotlight on the show. And if you ever want to be on the podcast, definitely hit one of us up, and we will try to do our best to get you on the podcast so that you can talk video games with us. Once again, this is episode 144 of the Geeks with Wives podcast. We appreciate your time, and we will see you next week. Goodbye, everybody.